My wife died in the spring when I was 77. And the year that followed was the hardest of my life. I'm not going to dress that up for you. I had buried my parents, my brother, and more friends than I can count on both hands. Nothing prepared me for that year. The house was wrong. The hours were wrong. I would set 2 cups out on the counter for 11 months without meaning to. But I got through it. And I want to be careful how I say that, because I did not get through it by being strong, and I did not get through it by time healing anything. Time did not do the work. For things did. I am giving you those 4 tonight for 2 reasons. Some of you have already lost her, and you are in that year right now, and nobody has told you anything useful. And some of you have not, and you are quietly afraid of the day you will be. This is for both of you. The 4th thing is the one that turned it. It came from the least likely place, and I did not go looking for it. If you are over 65, comment on the state you are watching from. Tonight especially, I would like to know you are out there. Here is the first thing. For the first month, I said yes to everything. That was not wisdom. That was exhaustion. I did not have the strength to refuse anybody, and it turned out to be the smartest thing I could have done. Because here is what men our age does, and I have watched a dozen of them do it. Somebody's wife dies, and within a week he starts turning people away. I am all right. You do not need to come by. I do not want to be a bother. He says it out of pride, and out of a genuine wish not to burden anybody, and he says it right now when he needs those people more than he has ever needed anything. And here is the cruel part. People stop offering. Not because they do not care. Because they are afraid of intruding on a man who keeps saying he is fine. Within 2 months he has exactly the solitude he claimed he wanted, and he will sit in it for years. I did not have the energy for pride that first month. My neighbor brought a casserole, and I let him carry it in and sit down. My daughter said she was staying the weekend, and I did not argue. Men from church came by, awkward, not knowing what to say, and I let them sit there not knowing what to say. None of them fixed anything. There was nothing to fix. But a man in that first month does not need fixing. He needs bodies in his house making noise, so the quiet cannot get all the way in. And I will tell you about the one that helped most, which surprised me. A fellow from the shop I had not seen in 6 years drove 90 minutes, sat at my kitchen table, and barely said a word for 2 hours. We watched most of a ball game. He said, "Well," a few times. Then he shook my hand and left. I could not tell you one thing that man said. I can tell you exactly where he sat. So, if you are the one in that year, say yes. Say yes to everything for the first month, even when you would rather be alone, especially then. And if you are the friend of a man in that year, do not ask, "Is there anything I can do?" That question puts the work on him, and he will say no. Just show up with something in your hands. But after that first month, the visits thinned out. They always do. And that is when I ran into the real problem, and the real problem had a specific time on the clock. The second thing was that I planned for 1 hour of the day. Not the entire day. 1 hour. Somewhere in that second month I noticed something. The mornings were all right. Bad, but survivable. The middle of the day I could fill with errands and yard work and the slow business of being old. But between about 5 and 6 in the evening, something came for me. That was our hour, you see. That was when she would come in from the garden and I would be finishing in the shop and one of us would start supper and we would tell each other about a day that neither of us had done anything interesting with. 30 years of that hour. And now it arrived every single evening like a bill I could not pay. I would sit in that chair and let it run over me. Some evenings I would still be sitting there in the dark at 8 o'clock, having not eaten, having not moved. So, I did something that felt almost foolish at the time. I planned for 5 o'clock. That is all. Not for grief in general, not for the year, not for my life. Just for that 1 hour. Monday, Wednesday, Friday I walked. Out the door at 5, no negotiation, 2 miles, rain or shine. Tuesday and Thursday I went to dinner and ate an early supper where there were people. Saturday, I worked in the shop with the radio on, loud enough to fill the corners. Sunday my daughter called at 5, and she never once missed it, and I never once told her what that call was holding up. Now hear me on this, because this is the part one would tell any man in that year. I did not solve my grief. I did not feel better on those walks. Some evenings I cried for 2 miles. But I was not in that chair. And after a few months I noticed that 5 o'clock had stopped being a wall and had gone back to being just a time of day. Find your hour. Every grieving man has one specific hour that is worse than the rest, and most of us never name it. Name it, then put something in it that gets you out of the chair. 1 hour, gentlemen. You do not have to fix the year. But there was something else I was getting wrong, and it took a strange conversation to show me. The third thing was that I stopped trying to put her away. About 4 months in, a well-meaning fellow at church said something to me that I have thought about ever since. He said, "You have got to start moving on. Move on." And I remember standing there thinking, to where? I had been trying, you understand. That was the advice everybody gave. So, I had put the photographs in a drawer because they were hard to look at. I had let her sister take the clothes. I had stopped saying her name aloud because it made people uncomfortable and it made me worse. I was doing everything a man is supposed to do to move on. And I was getting worse, not better. Because what I was doing was trying to erase 51 years of my own life, and no man can carry that off. The thing that broke it was so small. My granddaughter, the one who asks the good questions, was over one afternoon and she said, out of nowhere, "Grandpa, tell me about when Grandma made you sleep in the truck." And I laughed. First real laugh in months. And I told her the whole story, 1974, a fight about her mother's college money, and me too proud to knock on my own door. And then I told her 3 more stories. And by the end of that afternoon something on my chest had loosened for the first time since the spring. That is when I understood. I did not need to move on. I needed to move her from the front of my chest to a place where I could carry her. So, I put the photographs back up. I started saying her name in ordinary conversation. Ruth used to say, "Ruth would have hated this weather," and I noticed people relaxed when I did, because they had been avoiding her name too and it had been exhausting for everybody. And I will tell you something I have never been embarrassed about. I still talk to her. Aloud, in the shop when something needs commenting on. I am 80 years old and I am not going to apologize for it. You do not move on from a woman you spent 51 years with. You learn to carry her. There is a great deal of difference between those two things, and nobody tells you which one you are supposed to be doing. And now the fourth thing. The one that turned that year around. It came from a phone call I did not want to answer. The fourth thing was that somebody needed me. About 7 months in, our church secretary called and asked if I could drive one of the older widows to her appointments on Thursdays. Her name was Doris, she was 84, and she had nobody. I did not want to do it. I remember exactly what I thought. I can barely get myself through a Thursday. I said yes because it was harder to say no to that woman on the phone than it was to agree. That first Thursday I drove Doris to a doctor 20 minutes away. She talked the entire time. She told me about her husband, who had been gone 11 years. She told me about her son in Oregon who called on birthdays. She told me the same story about a dog she had in 1961 twice, and I did not correct her. And somewhere on the drive home, I realized I had gone almost 2 hours without thinking about myself. That was the turn, gentlemen. Not a good day. Not feeling better. 2 hours of being useful to somebody who needed my truck and my elbow and my patience. I drove Doris for 9 years, until she passed. And I have never been able to explain properly what she did for me, because on paper I was the one helping her. I will give you one more piece of it. About a year in, Doris said something on the way home that I did not expect. She said, "You know I do not need a ride, dear. My niece would drive me." I looked over at her, and she was looking straight ahead. She had known, the whole time, exactly what she was doing. That woman was 84 years old and had lost more than I had, and she spent a year quietly pretending to need me because she could see that I needed to be needed. Here is the best I can put it. Grief turns a man entirely inward. That is not weakness, which is just what it does. It makes your own chest the entire world. And you cannot think your way out of that. You cannot decide to stop. But you can be pulled out, temporarily, by somebody who genuinely needs something from you. And each time you get pulled out, you come back a little less stuck. So, if you are in that year, find one person who needs something small from you. A ride. A repair. A visit to somebody who gets fewer visits than you do. Do not wait until you feel up to it, because that day is not coming on its own. Being needed is the rope. Somebody must hand it to you, or you must go looking for it. But it is the rope. So, there they are. Say yes for the first month. Plan for your worst hour. Stop trying to put her away and learn to carry her instead. And find somebody who needs you. Now I want to say one more thing, and then I will let you go. That year did not have a day when it ended. There was no morning where I woke up finished with it. What happened was slower and stranger than that. One day, sometime in the second year, I caught myself whistling in the shop. And I stopped, and I stood there, and I waited for the guilt to arrive. It did not arrive. Because whatever else she was, Ruth was not a woman who would have wanted me standing still. If you are in that year right now, I am not going to tell you it gets better, because you have heard that and it is not useful. I will tell you this instead, it gets carryable. And these 4 things are how a man gets from the first to the second. And if the weight of it is more than you can manage alone, there is no shame at all in telling your doctor or someone you trust exactly how heavy it has been. Strong men do that too. I did. You have earned your peace. Comes back, friend. Different from before. But it comes back. If this spoke to you, subscribe, because next I am telling you about the 3 things my father said to me before he died, which I did not understand until I was 70 myself. I have spent 30 years unpacking one sentence of it. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one.